Yeah, good enough. Okay. So we are looking at a right triangle, and we want to find these trig functions. It looks a little different than last chapter because we're not just using x, y, r. We can kind of flip our triangle around, and it can be all sorts of fun different ways. So we're kind of using a reference angle. So from here, we have two sides, and we want the third. Yesterday, we went over labeling. So if this is angle A, the side across from it is side A. So sides are lowercase letters, and angles are uppercase letters. If this is angle B, then across from it is side B. And if this is angle C, this is side C, which I don't know. And whatever's across from the right angle is the hypotenuse. So just as a reminder, just some labeling. So what I always like to do first, we know the Pythagorean theorem, we used it last chapter with just some different variables, but we're gonna plug in what we know to find the third side. So I'm just gonna do 5 squared plus 8 squared. We'll let it come out to, that comes out to 89. And then we take the square root. I don't think I can break down the square root of 89, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it, and that's gonna C. Let's replace it here. Okay, so that looks pretty similar to what we've been doing. The difference now is we see that there's a difference here. We have trig functions, but one has an A and one has a B. So just as a reminder, what we need to do. For the first one, I go to A. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So from this angle, the opposite side is on the opposite side, is 5. The hypotenuse is square root of 89. And then all we have to do to this is rationalize the denominator, which we went over last chapter. That comes up a lot, so if you're still confused on that, let me know. And I'll get 5 square root of 89 over 89. And that would be your final answer for sine of A. So secant of B, you'd have to kind of look up what secant is. It's hypotenuse over adjacent. Oops, if I could write that would be good. But we're switching angles, so now we're looking at B to figure out our opposite adjacent hypotenuse. So for angle B, hypotenuse is always the same, it's always the square root of 89, that's not changing. But adjacent to B, adjacent means next to, so the side next to it is 5. And that will be your final answer. So we'll do another one of those before we move on. But if there are, if there's anything as we're going over stuff, please let me know. Yeah. But I'll give you a second. I'm not trying not to rush you. Move a little slower, pre-8 a.m., I feel ya. Is there any part of that people have questions on? Okay. So let's do one more, just for fun, guys. I'm just trying to think. So with this, we can kind of do triangles however we please. I'm trying not to switch myself, but I'm just going to. So the triangles can be in all sorts of different funky ways. It doesn't really matter. The main thing you look for is where is the right angle. And then this time I'm going to say this side is 3 and this side's 11. So I'm going to kind of help you with the setup and then I'm going to see if you can try it. So the first thing I would do is find your, oh, I need to label like a crazy lady here. Okay. First thing I need to do is just, I would find all my sides. So I go through and label. If this is angle A, this is side A, and I don't know what that is yet, so I'm gonna have to find that. If this is angle B, this is side B. And if that's angle C, that's side C. And remember, across from the the right angle is the hypotenuse. So we know the hypotenuse right now. So what you're gonna do is, can you find side A using a squared plus b squared equals c squared? And then can you tell me what is tangent of B? I'm just gonna ask that one thing. So I'll give you a second. I kind of tried to help you with the setup in case that was an issue on the last one. So I'll give you, I don't know, a few more seconds. We'll see how we're feeling. Remember, you can always use your notes, so that's helpful. But for this, when you think of tangent, remember Soh-Cah-Toa. That's what we kind of refer back to. So that's our three main trig functions. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. But just make sure you're doing it from angle B. So I'll give you a few more seconds. Oh, it'll be another minute. No rush here. Oh, goodness gracious. All right, so let's look at that one and see how we're feeling. If you have a question, let me know. And then we just have one other quick little thing to do. And that should be a blast and a half. And then we'll take a break in a few minutes. We'll do a quick little question, a little fun question. So I say, oh, tangent B, I need opposite over adjacent. So when I think about this, opposite's here, so I have opposite, adjacent is next to it. I don't know that yet, so that's why I have to find that A. So I'm gonna plug in what I know. I don't know A. I do know B, and I do know C. So it's just about plugging in what you know. This one you do have to rearrange a little bit, so I'm just gonna kind of subtract this and throw that in my calculator. So 11 squared minus 3 squared gives me 112. Okay. And I'm gonna take the square root of that. I don't know if I can break that down, so I'm just gonna kind of check some factors. Ooh, it's divisible by 4. So I'm gonna break that down. It's 4 and, sorry, just lost my train of thought, and 28. And 28 is also divisible by 4. So remember, you'll always get partial credit if you try anything, but do your best to simplify as much as possible. That simplifies to 4 square root of 7. Okay. All right, so I just remind myself again, opposite over adjacent from angle B. Opposite is 3. Adjacent is 4 square root of 7. Hopefully we remind ourselves that we don't want the radical in the bottom. When you're doing this, you can kind of do it a few different ways. You can multiply what's exactly in the bottom, 4 square root of 7. I usually just multiply by what the actual radical is. It kind of saves you a step of having to reduce after. But if you do it the other way, you just have to reduce. So I end up with 3 square root of 7 over. This is 7, but I have to multiply it by 4, so that would be over 28. So we know, we've seen it before in trig, the simplifying can get a little tricky. Just as a reminder, I go back in and always recheck your work, give you partial credit. I'm never just gonna take all of your points off because you don't simplify something correctly. So like, if you didn't simplify that correctly, you maybe get a point off, so I wouldn't kill you. So just do your best. I know it can get a little frustrating, but that's just unfortunately life with radicals here. So besides maybe that like tricky simplifying in the end, which we'll see a little bit more of, does anyone have a question with the process of Soh-Cah-Toa? How we're finding missing sides, how we're labeling, anything like that? Oh, great. Guys, we did that. What is it? 7:50. We get out at 16. That gives us 20-ish minutes left. We'll take a little break. Why not? Let's break it up. And then we'll.
Like, I remember when I take this class in Peru that there was another one.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Well, there's like a 3, 4, 5. There's all different ones, but those are the 2 we're going to focus
I
on.
needed to memorize the whole thing.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just kind of going with the flow this year. Yeah, so for now, those are the 2 you need. There are all sorts of other fun, special ones out in the world there. But that's kind of the ones we'll focus on. So basically what we can do is we can use our 6 trig functions, Soh-Cah-Toa, the kind of opposite, and we can use them with these triangles. So little things like I would say, and you're going to do a little bit of this later in the week, but I'll kind of show it to you now. I could say, hey, what's sine of 30? And we would say, okay, I don't know. So what you would do is you would just go back to your triangles, you have them there. You would say, oh, wait a minute, I know that sine is opposite over hypotenuse. And what I would do is I would go to the 30. So go to where the 30 is right here and say, oh, well, from that angle, I'm going to find the opposite. I'm going to put in the hypotenuse, and that's what sine of 30 is. So from here, the opposite is 1. The hypotenuse, remember, is across from the 90, so the hypotenuse is 2. So a sine of 30 would be 1 over 2. And that's it. So it's kind of using what we just did, but now instead of saying A, B, or C, it's just telling us what our angle is. So we go to that angle in our special right triangle, and we look up the ratio for the sides. So if I said, hey, what's the tangent of 45? You would say, oh, that's a special right triangle. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. You mosey on over. It doesn't matter because they're both 45, right? So you just pick one. Opposite of this is 1. Adjacent to this is 1. So tangent to 45 is just 1 over 1, which is 1. So it's just kind of bringing in these new triangles that we'll refer back to quite a bit. So just as a heads up there, have those written somewhere nicely. So let's do another one. Let's do it. If I said, what's the cosine of 60? It's all right. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. But you just need to make sure, the big thing is that you're using the right angle. So this time we're gonna go to this angle. Okay, that's not that bad. From 60, adjacent just means next to it, so that would be 1. Hypotenuse is across from the 90, which is 2. Yeah. So, overthinking it here. So your hand will be 1/2. So basically we have these special triangles, they actually pop up a lot, and we kind of use them randomly a lot for some reason. But we're basically relating those two triangles to what we've been doing with opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So right now, can you please attempt these 3? I'm gonna ask you, what's the cosine of 30? What is the secant of 45? And then what's the cotangent of 60? So you might need to look up some other stuff like, hey, I can always remember sine, cosine, tangent from Soh-Cah-Toa, but if you don't know the other 3, those are things you might want to look up. Remember, you kind of flip them. And then it's more just, are you getting used to how we're using a triangle, how we're looking at the sides, fun stuff like that. So I'll give you a few minutes. If you see anything that you need, do let me know. But those are the kind of the 2 major ideas you'll need for the end of the week. Just in general, being able to look at a triangle and figure out what opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse is, depending on the angle. And then there will be a few things with these special right triangles. You're going to be filling in the little chart that we're going to use throughout the year. That will be one of the days. I'll give you another minute. Let me see. This is the major stuff we needed. Beautiful. Alright, so let's look at those and see how we're feeling, and then we'll kind of just do one more quick thing and then be done. So I'm always referring back to there. You can just do a quick little sketch if you need it for each individual problem. But for cosine 30, I just remind myself cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So I'm kind of just looking at 30, okay, 30 is right there. Adjacent is right next to it, square root of 3. Hypotenuse is 2. Done. So it's kind of nice. There's not really a lot of work involved. It's more just going back and looking at those triangles. Secant is, that's hypotenuse over adjacent. So you would say, okay, 45, I'm gonna go to that other triangle, pick either one, because they're both 45, so just pick an angle. Hypotenuse is square root of 2, over adjacent is just 1. So I usually just write that as a square root of 2, because I don't need to put anything over 1. So that would be that one, but once again, just looking up, you're done. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. All that stuff you should be able to look up. 60, so just make sure you're going to the right angle, okay, from 60, adjacent is next to it, that's 1, over opposite, which is square root of 3, so that one we do have to do a little bit of simplifying, as I fall over here. And that would be your final. So can you do a quick check and see how far you got? I highly suggest writing those down, because one of the days you have to fill in the chart, and basically with those few we just did, that's half of the chart. So if you have those, your life will be easier and there will be less things to find on Thursday. So plan tomorrow is I'll just see you in the morning. You'll have a little bit of something in the afternoon. Thursday, you're just gonna have a little worksheet on Soh-Cah-Toa. There will be a little chart on there you're filling in with the 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90. Friday, you had tried some the other day. You're gonna do some more of that acuplacer prep. I was looking through, and most people were pretty good with the arithmetic stuff. It does get harder than that. So if you do plan on going to college, taking classes, going to the military, anything like that, those placement exams, you wanna do well on them. That means in the military, you get a better job. In college, you get into a class that maybe is not gonna be non-credit, which you definitely don't want. So my main goal is to just expose you to that stuff so you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. Once you start paying for stuff like college, you don't want to spend extra money. You kind of appreciate it a little more. So that will be Friday, and then we'll just start it over again next week with some other stuff, and we will go from there. So we only have about 2 or 3 minutes left, so we can start packing up. I'm not going to do anything new with 2 minutes left. So if you're having any major issues, let me know. I'm happy to help you. Other than that, have a lovely week at home, or rest of the week at home. I will see you virtually tomorrow, but let's be honest, no one ever talks to me, so I'll just say my classes now.